Before I move into 11.04, the Susquehanna High School renovations and additions project, I would like to read a list of dates of when this project has been discussed in public meetings. We understand that on the Facebook and other computer accessible information that we have not been open and discussed this project to the public. So here's the timeline. October 2017, started discussion of planning for long-term building needs, including the financing and debt structure. October 2018, through a request for proposal process, Beers and Hoffman was selected to conduct a feasibility study of all district buildings. August 9, 2019 board meeting, report from Beers and Hoffman. October 2019 board meeting, update on the capital projects. There was an update at almost every meeting in 2019 and 2020. January 2021 board meeting, update and timelines were presented. February 2021, the Act 34 plan was advertised, and on February 15th, 2021, the entire Act 34 plan, pictures and attachments with the newsletter was presented. The March 2021 meeting, the Act 34 hearing was held. Presentation on the website with all materials. March 22nd, 2021, community leaders presentation, and the presentation was put on the website. April, May, June, August, September, October, November 2021 board meetings, presentations were held and discussions held. September 17th, 2021, an email to all families on Susquehanna High School presentation linked to actual and other items on the website, noted when bids were to be evaluated. October 27th, 2021, communication sent to families on the Susquehanna High School timeline to accept bids and updates on parking lots with pictures. November 10th, 2021, communication sent to all families on the Buildings and Grounds meeting and the purpose of the meeting, i.e. the Susquehanna High School project bids. So I don't believe the public has the right to say that this project was not made public. At this time, I'd like to turn 11.04 over to Ms. Susan Green and Randy Buffington.
Thank you, Mr. Holly. So the motion that is on the agenda is based upon the discussions that were had last night and the direction that we were given from the board in the discussion. So it includes the base bids to the lowest responsible bidder and the alternates as delineated last evening. And I don't know, Mr. Buffington, if you want to add to that any?
I think that's good.
Okay, then I will make a motion to accept the bids from the lowest responsible bidders as detailed in the attachment, which I will read. The general contract will go to Low Bar Incorporated in the amount of $33,152,500. The HVAC contract will go to Midline Mechanical LLC, the amount of $14,349,000. The plumbing contract will go to J.R. Reynolds Incorporated in the amount of $3,408,000. The electrical contract will go to Farfield Company $8,791,000. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
I have a couple, of course. How, I am under the impression that these are firm price bids and we are not open to inflationary clauses in either labor or material, or is that a bad impression?
No, I think that's accurate, and
Great.
we'll go off to the light, but
Okay.
yeah, certainly, as we spoke last evening, we relied heavily on, professional opinions from our architect and legal counsel to put together specifications, but I don't know, Scott, if you would want to elaborate a little bit more, but yeah, these bids are firm bids.
In the public bid environment for these bids, the contractors, all four primes, are locked into those numbers for materials and labor for the duration of the project.
Can I add a couple pieces that I think are helpful based upon your question, some of the items that came up at public comment? As we worked through this process, we did work with legal counsel because one of the things we knew was going to be a concern was the supply chain issue. We were very concerned about that. So we did work with Mr. Kellen to go through our bid package and actually put in clauses that the contractors would be paid for materials. We have protections in there that they have to have insurance, they have to have them in a stable, kept in a stable place. But this is something we worked with the contractors and legal counsel to make sure that we responded to the needs we have now. We know you can't wait till 2 weeks before you need something to order it in these environments. So we put those items in there. We also, and I don't know, Scott, if you want to respond a little bit more to this, we also put in, although there's not a change in price, we are allowing some leeway and change in timing because of the supply chain. So I don't know if you want to comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, Howard, in the AI agreements and the documents we were looking at, we had put, it's unusual, but we are in unusual times, a specific phrase about issues that arise from COVID, working with the contractors, a willingness to look at time changes or issues, but there no option for a cost change issue. So again, trying to show flexibility of schedule, moving back and forth to try and hit the deadlines, but there is no openness to another change order on materials.
And because this is a public bid, the other thing that I wanted to comment on is a phrase or a comment about bankruptcy or contractors going out or those kinds of things. These are all bonded contractors. They're required to be bonded. So I don't know if you want to explain that a little bit, Scott, from your standpoint. But that is the protection for the school district. That is a little different than like a normal project would be for maybe other organizations.
Yeah, there's numerous bonds required in this project, and again, your solicitor's done a great job with the language on particularly the performance bond. That is set in place. The companies get the insurance to ensure that the project finishes out completely under that contract. If a contractor does go out of business, that is turned over to that insurance company to provide another contractor to finish the project at the cost of the project that was left. I will say, again, your solicitor really pushed that heavy for the owner, the school district, having very strength as in that contract piece. It really pushed a lot of the risk, et cetera, to the contractor. So it is a mechanism. We have seen it in our firm. We've seen that happen over the years. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the performance bond kicks in and that insurance company then finishes out the project.
Our consultants, both SiteLogic and Beers and Huffman, also had dialogue with the apparent low bidders as well to make sure that they also had a comfort level completing this project.
Okay, we had talked just in general about scheduling. We wanted to see a comfort level. They've put a bid in, they're at risk. They can pull that, if they weren't comfortable with their number, they can pull that bid out. And that none of them have pulled it out. We had talked about supply chain. Our concern was also phasing, getting that phasing one, getting the building closed in is a key trigger in this piece. And we have every confidence from the contractors that by moving this project, getting a decision, that they can go ahead and start ordering materials early December, that particularly roof insulation that we've heard about, that would be slated to arrive in the summer. And one of the issues was steel joists that you hear about out there. We gave an option in design, instead of steel joists, to use steel flanges. Those are like the H-shaped pieces of steel as opposed to those joists. We gave them that option knowing there's availability of the steel flanges, and your general contractor has committed to the steel flanges to make sure there's no issue with the steel joists. So again, we try to build in as much as we can in this current environment. Your low bid contractor is a local contractor, also one of the bigger general contractors, which is very beneficial. Again, they have a lot of pull with subcontractors. Subcontractors like working for them and getting the materials here on time.
Okay.
And I'll just make one more comment. The prices that I read you for each contract included the alternates that we approved last evening.
Good.
They were in the numbers automatically.
Good. Thank you.
Correct.
Another comment, I was pleased to hear from the public. There doesn't seem to be any general overall disapproval of the concept of the project. You know, maybe the scope, maybe the timing. And the biggest thing I heard was timing. And I'll just give you my spin for what it's worth. I mean, I'm looking at where we are right now. Interest rates are never going to go lower. I mean, we've had that discussion. The longer we wait in this time of inflation, the more the interest rates are going to go up and the more our borrowing costs are going to be. But the other thing I think about, and we didn't talk about, is the federal government just passed this massive infrastructure bill. That is going to be such a drain on materials, on labor, that 2 years from now, I don't think contractors are going to be so busy, they might not even be interested in bidding. So my spin is, boy, if we're going to do it, we better do it now, or otherwise we're going to be waiting 5, 6, 7, 8 years before we can do it. One man's opinion. Thank you.
Any more questions? Are there any nays or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. 11.07, upcoming bond, or excuse me, sale of bond. 11.05, sale of bonds. I get it right.
It's late.
Susan?
So this motion is basically, you had approved the parameters resolution, we were moving forward, and we're holding, just to make sure bids were approved before moving forward with any borrowing. So this is just giving us authorization to continue moving forward. We've been working with our financial advisor, Public Financial Management, and bond counsel to sell the bonds appropriately, with the idea that we would really like to close before the end of the year, because as you know, bank qualified issues which are under $10 million, we get lower interest rates. So we're slated to do that.
Any questions of Ms. Green? I'll make a motion to approve, to authorize the administration to move forward with the sale of the bonds on a favorable date per the recommendation of PFM for the parameters resolution approved at the October 21, 2021 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Being none, are there any nays or abstentions? Being none, the motion passes. Next item, 11.06 is building and zoning permits, and
Yeah, we're finalizing the building and zoning permits contingent upon the highway occupancy permit, which we'll talk about here in a few items. But Scott's been working with the township and their consultants, so we expect that to have that here within the next couple of weeks.
do you have any idea what these permits are going to cost?
Yeah, it's, just generally, the cost together, both the building and the zoning, is about $175,000 together. And Scott's been working with them as well to try to get that fee down,
Okay.
the inspection fee in particular.
We've been speaking with them. They have different ways they do their calculation, and we have a good relationship. We helped to convince them to use a method that brought that number down. The way I'm saying that is understanding that a lot of the way they do their building permits are sized up to $1 million, $2 million projects. They don't have a scale once you get after 10, 20, 30 million. So we had some discussions to say proportionally, and they were working with us legitimate ways to try and find the best price for the inspection. There's going to be a lot of inspections, so there's clearly a fee coming out to do all those inspections, but we worked with them to try and get the best number for that fee that's legally allowable to do.
Okay. When you use the pronoun "they," do you mean Shrewsbury Township?
Shrewsbury Township, but they also subcontract, the plan reviews goes to South Penn. They do a lot of the plan review, and at this point, South Penn will also be doing the inspection. So the zoning permit is going to Shrewsbury Township. You go through Shrewsbury Township then for the building and permit the building, and the inspections will be eventually through to South Penn, is their third-party agency. So it's a group of them.
Any other questions? I will make, did we make a motion? No. Okay. I will make a motion to approve payment to Shrewsbury Township for the building and zoning permits for the Susquehannock High School renovations and additions project in the amount required. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, are there any nays or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Upcoming bond issues, 11.07.
So this motion is to approve Pliget as the, where we will invest the money when we get the bond proceeds, before we spend the bond proceeds, and we're asking a motion that we would use Pliget for all of the issues related to the high school projects, so that we can keep the arbitrage and the calculations all at the same entity. And Mr. Carrington did a good job of doing an RFP to the two investment pools that would be able to handle these type of calculations, and is recommending Pliget.
Any questions for Mrs. Green? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve Pliget to invest the proceeds of the upcoming bond issues for the Susquehannock High School building project. This includes computation of required arbitrage calculations related to the bond proceeds. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, are there any nays or abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. 11.08, builder's risk insurance. Is that Randy or?
Yeah, you want to do that one?
Sure. We worked, started in the spring of 2021, working with our insurance broker, Keller Brown, to seek proposals for the builder's risk. Obviously, with that, seeking both the architect and legal counsel's advice on how to, set this up as well. So Keller Brown got proposals for us, and we reviewed those proposals, and we're looking to have nationwide insurance provide our builder's risk. And at an approximate cost of $185,712. And the reason it's approximate is because it depended on which alternates and things we selected this evening. So we'll finalize that amount. But that's a, pretty close number there.
Any questions for Randy? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve builder's risk insurance with Nationwide for the Susquehannock High School renovation and additions project. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any questions? Hearing none, are there any nays or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. 11.09, letter of credit. That would be Mrs. Green, probably.
Yes, so as we talked about briefly last night, PennDOT, out of the blue, we've been working with them for a very long time on the permit, and they are now requiring a letter of credit, which I've never seen in one of these projects. And the bank didn't either when I talked to them. So, but basically, what we'll do is we'll put up collateral for the $56,000 so that they can do the letter of credit, and then that will be returned when it's finished. But this is just authorizing me to sign that paperwork. And working with the bank, we may need to have a resolution approved. They're still deciding because as it goes through their processes. But at this point, this will allow us to move forward with that letter of credit.
Any questions for Mrs. Green? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to authorize Susan Green to sign bank documents for a $56,000 letter of credit required for the PennDOT permit for the Susquehannock High School renovations and additions project. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, are there any nays? Are there any nays or abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. I would just comment, it might pay to make a call to the representatives or our state senators that this is very unusual for a governing type, a government body to make a letter of credit to PennDOT. In my 40 years of dealing with PennDOT, I've never seen anybody be required to do that.
Yeah, I only have 20, but I haven't either. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a good idea, Jim. We can try to do that.